All right. So welcome everyone. We at Press Pause have sort of a mission to have sort of a quiet space to read, reflect, as well as share art with each other, art that maybe doesn't always get to see the light of day, and from people who don't always run in the same circles as people who have MFAs and all of that. And we've been finding that people find us from all over because we're not on social media. We have no idea how they do, but we really love it as more and more people come and join us in our mission. And I really like this. I keep it on my lamp in my office. It's the small man builds cages for everyone he knows, while the sage who has to duck his head when the moon is low keeps dropping keys all night long for the beautiful rowdy prisoners. And my thesis advisor showed us this when our long form class was coming to an end, and I really love it. And I especially love it in the context of making sure that we still create those spaces that aren't focused on sort of branding, but on sharing and just the beauty of art itself. So welcome. Thank you so much for coming. We're gonna get started with our readers. We have Anissa Lynne Johnson, hosted by myself, Ricki Nelson, hosted by our assistant editor, Catherine M. Barber, Kelsey Cleveland, hosted by our nonfiction editor, Marianne Ada, and then Alise Versella, hosted by our poetry editor, Ray Hendricks. And they'll introduce more about our readers as we go, but I'm really excited to have everyone. Again, thank you so much. Feel free to comment in the chat. There will also be some time for general questions at the end. We also have some raffles throughout. Like I said, stick around for our send-off. We'll have writing prompts as you go, because I like, after I hear really great readings, I always feel like writing. So each of our readers have prepared a writing prompt. And then we also have a SMOL fair discount in our store, so check that out. Okay, so Anissa Lynne Johnson is our wonderful Volume 5 fiction contributor. She contributed Tom Hanks Goes to a Rummage Sale, which is very funny and profound flash. Anissa Lynne Johnson is a disabled writer and speaker from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Her work has appeared in The Daily Drunk, Press Pause, Sledgehammer, Wigwag, Ecotheo, and elsewhere. And Anissa can be found walking in the woods or watching the sort of movies that never win awards. There's her Twitter as well as the email. All right, go for it, Anissa. We're very excited.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for that kind introduction. And I'm so excited to get to read my piece tonight, Tom Hanks Goes to a Rummage Sale, which was in Volume 5. So you should pick this up in the store. It's so beautiful. I like to write about Tom Hanks. Everybody who knows me as the Tom Hanks girl. That's how I got branded in my graduate program. I promise you I do love other actors and actresses in other movies, but tonight is a Tom night. Got my bookmark here, marking my place. Scholastic Book Fair. Anybody remember these? Gotta love horses. Here is Tom Hanks Goes to a Rummage Sale. Tom Hanks jogs in reverse. A flash of neon green caught his eye about a block ago. Curiosity gnaws at him. Beads of sweat pool in the crook behind his knees, spilling into the sock line around his ankles. 10:12 a.m. and already 80 degrees in Los Angeles. Rummage sale, Friday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Lots of household items. He strolls up the short driveway to the garage, where an elderly woman sits in a canvas camping chair outside the garage door, embroiders a monarch butterfly onto a pillowcase. Beside her, a metal cash box rests atop a TV tray. Next to it, a mug of coffee, 1 cream, 2 sugars. Tom lowers his head and raises a hand in salutation. Hiya, good morning. Nice sale you have going here, he says as he glances around the garage. The woman looks up at him, smiles with her mouth closed, nods, and picks up her needle again. She's working on the black outline of a monarch's wings. Tom purses his lips. Well, I guess I better get shopping. He decides to start at the back of the garage first and work his way forward through each of the 7 folding tables until he will return to the woman in her cash box. Tom lingers at each table for at least 2 minutes, even if at first glance its contents don't interest him. He doesn't want to miss a thing. Piles of cheap paperbacks, outdated world maps, Yugoslavia, Zanzibar, North and South Yemen, a chess set, decks of cards, cookbooks with dog-eared pages to mark family favorites. 50 years worth of Time magazine in a cardboard box. He thumbs through the magazine pile for kicks and giggles. The graphic design hasn't changed much, but he still enjoys looking at the covers. Snapshots of American society. A few magazines deep, he finds an issue dated July 25th, 1969, Man on the Moon. Bounces up and down on his tippy toes. How much for a magazine? A quarter, the woman says without looking up. She's working on the monarch's antenna now. He tucks the magazine under his arm and keeps scanning. A mauve corded phone, 5-pound free weights, polka records, a birdcage, penny loafers, lampshades, Cecil B. DeMille's The 10 Commandments on 2 VHS tapes, crystal dishes, crochet doilies, mason jars for canning, those gold-tone picture frames everyone had in the 70s, precious moments figurines, a gravy boat. One last walkthrough, and Tom feels content with just the issue of Time. He turns to exit the garage, and the tip of his right running shoe catches on something. A small black handle. He squats to take a peek, finds it connected to a hard army green case. What do we have here? He mutters. Sits crisscross applesauce, slides it towards him. The cool concrete feels good on his hot, sweaty legs. He flicks open the case's silver buckles, lifts the lid like a father with his firstborn. Inside, a 1956 Underwood Golden Touch Deluxe stares up at him. Gorgeous teal body, only a minor white scuff on the right side, easily buffed out. Tom peers down into the carriage and finds the dust cover did its job. It's not gummed up with decades of dust like most of the machines he's picked up throughout the years. Excuse me, ma'am? Ma'am, do you have a piece of paper by any chance? The woman mumbles incoherently as she sets down her embroidery in her folding chair and walks over to the mailbox. She rips open her electricity bill and brings the envelope to him. Well, she says. Tom rolls the envelope into the carriage, wiggles his fingers, rests them on the keys and types. No taste buds were harmed in the licking of this envelope. The woman, who had been looking up at him with her arms crossed, shakes her head with an inkling of a smile. How much for the typewriter? How much for this beautiful piece of machinery right here? 75. I don't know, Tom says as he stands up from the garage floor. 70, she says. 35. 67. 40. 68. But we were just at 67, Tom yells. Okay, 65. 42 and the change in my pocket. 50, take it or leave it. 50, he repeats. $50, you've got yourself a sale. He places the Underwood back in its case and carries it and the issue of Time magazine over to the cash box at the edge of the garage. 50-25, the woman says. Tom nods and reaches into the pocket of his running shorts. All he's got are 2 wadded up $10 bills, a quarter, 3 dimes, and a nickel. Confound it, he says. Could you hold this for me while I run home and grab the rest? Sure, she says, rethreading her needle. Bright orange for the monarch's wings. Tom runs at double his normal pace, bursts through the door without a hello to his family, takes a swig of water from the glass of water on the counter. Wallet, the bedroom dresser. He sprints back to the woman's house, though he walks and pants up the driveway. He counts the bills aloud to the woman at the cash box, pulls the quarter from his pocket with a wink. 50-25, right here, he says, slaps it down on the TV tray. Yes, but the typewriter is over there. She points to a young blonde woman in her mid-20s, hopping into a silver Toyota Corolla parked on the street. Sold for $75. Tom drops his head, nudges a pebble in the driveway with the toe of his tennis shoe. But you're in luck, the woman says. She left the magazine. He drops the quarter into her palm, tucks the magazine under her arm, walks home. Later that night, Tom Hanks will turn on his bedside lamp to read about the Apollo 11 mission and sigh. In another life, he will learn to fly. Thank you.
I love that so much. When I saw it, I was just like, ours. Thank you so much for reading that. It was so good to hear in your voice. I have 2 questions. And I didn't know that you were the Tom Hanks writer. So this is actually kind of serendipitous that my question is, why Tom Hanks? Why Tom Hanks? And do you have any like advice for writers who want to write comedy but have never, I mean, I know that it's not only comedy, but who want to have some little pieces of comedy in their writing who've never tried?
Yeah, so Tom Hanks, I've loved him since I was a very young girl, starting with Woody, and then I fell in love with him through Apollo 13, really, and it kind of changed my life, and he really made me want to study film and write about film. And so I've always been a Tom Hanks fan, was collecting his movies growing up and things like that. And it wasn't until I actually was in a life-changing car accident almost 4 years ago now that I still have a brain injury from long-term. And so in my grief of coping with my disability, I started to write about my love of Tom and how my love of him kind of got me into this place of my accident, because I was actually seeing him in a play when it happened, like right after it happened. So Tom kind of caused it in a weird way. So that kind of allowed me to play with it a little bit more and talk about fandom and grief and kind of how they sometimes intertwine. And at times it's also led me to humor, because I cope with all of my hardship with jokes. I don't know any other way. And the way that I've, I guess, learned how to write about comedy, because a lot of the things that I do write are comedic in some sort, some more than others, is actually through TV. So I just study dialogue and kind of notice where the jokes land and kind of the physicality of television and how people move. And then I try to like play my stories as a little mini movie in my head and then write those things down, and every movement someone makes, the way that they speak. But yeah, a lot of Gilmore Girls has gone into the making of my writing. So that's what I would suggest that people do, is just watch a lot of film.
I love that. Thank you so much. And I'm sorry about your accident. I'm glad that Tom Hanks got you through, even though it was his fault. And I'm gonna blame him. So thank you so much, Anissa. And please send any of that, any other Tom Hanks to us, or anything else in the future.
Will do. Thank you.
All right, raffle number 1. You can choose any of our t-shirts. We even have an original that I'm calling an NFT. It is there's one left. It is a medium. Go to the store if you want that one. It's our OG. Also, we have 2 awesome new ones that came in this past a couple months, I believe. And so Kate, our lovely assistant editor, please draw a number.
I have number 11. Who's got 11?
Who's number 11? It looks like it's Matt. Matt. So Matt, please send us, congrats, Matt, and please send us your email either at info@presspausepress.org or se.harsha@presspausepress.org, and send us address. I can send it to you. You can see all the sizes in the store as well. So yay, great first raffle. Thanks so much.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, thank you.
Cool. All right. I am introducing our next reader, who is a writer I really admire. I heard her read this story at a UNCW BFA reading, and I was like, who is this and what is this story and can we have it? I loved it so much. So I'm introducing Ricki Nelson. She is in volume 4 of Press Pause, so this lovely one right here, with a story called She Fed Me Sweet Potatoes. A graduate of UNC Wilmington's Film Studies and Creative Writing program, Ricki Nelson is a multi-hyphenate creative who enjoys showcasing her artistic vision through writing, filmmaking, and performing. She strives to create art that supports the empowerment and liberation of marginalized and misrepresented voices with a focus on Black women. Currently, she works full-time in the film industry. When she's not creating, Ricki enjoys thrifting and watching old cartoons. Over to you, Ricki.
Thank you so much. That was a lovely introduction. Also, I have never attempted to write about Tom Hanks, but after that, I felt very inspired. So thank you for that. Yes, as she said, I'll be reading She Fed Me Sweet Potatoes from volume 4. And yeah. Mama only cooked a big meal when she wanted to avoid talking about anything other than food during dinner. She didn't enjoy unpleasant or honest conversations, so she cooked good food when she wanted to keep mouths full and quiet. The pantries were often bare, except when she stuffed them full of canned ingredients, diced tomatoes, creamed corn, red beans, black beans, and white beans. In the double-sided sink, she would run warm water and place frozen packages of chicken breast on the left, and rinse sweet potatoes, shallots, zucchini, squash, and yellow peppers on the right. Silence. That's how she liked to cook, as close to pure quiet as possible, accompanied only by the sound of rinsing as she washed veggies, chopping as she cubed meats, sizzling as food browned in her cast iron skillet, and boiling as it all simmered together in a pot. The pot. The pot was an heirloom passed down 4 generations, deep enough to stack 3 frozen turkeys and strong enough to withstand the homegrown spices of any grandmother. When I was small, I joined her in the kitchen. I would make art out of potato skins, and she fed me wedges of sweet potato. I don't remember the quiet. I remember her voice floating to the top of the rinsing, boiling, slicing, and sizzling. It was deep and sweet, like the South where she came from. Mama moved a lot growing up, but she never lived in a big city. Small town to small town, she would say. Now living in the city, she was a foreigner. She tried hiding her accent behind a smile, a drink, a laugh. Her voice was a caged bird, unaware its wings worked on the other side. I wondered, what would it be like to hear her sing where she was not different or foreign or visitor? In the city, when she wasn't called Mama, she was called Little Bumpkin. It was a name given to her by strangers who would never taste any of the recipes she had acquired from her days in the South. She pushed a ladle to the bottom of the pot, past the potatoes, chicken bones, and beans. She stirred clockwise until it was time to taste. Mustard, cayenne pepper, brown sugar. She added a tablespoon of each. Stir, taste. It was perfect. We used the copper-colored bowls for any meal made in the pot. Soups, stews, and chowders. I placed one bowl in front of the far right chair and another in front of its neighbor. I set the silverware, glasses, and cloth napkins in their proper places. She brought out the pot, holding the handles with red oven mitts. Why are there only 2 place settings? She asked. Because, I said, there are only 2 of us. You forgot about your daddy, she said. I played with the extra napkins between my fingers. Mama, I said, he doesn't set one for him, she ordered. She watched me as I walked to the far left of the table where he used to sit. I placed 1 bowl, 1 knife, 1 fork, 1 spoon, 1 napkin, and 1 glass for 1 man who would not be joining us for dinner. She watched me, her lips pressed together into a hard line. This will just make you miss him, I wanted to tell her. 3 months ago, he left us alone in a house we couldn't afford with questions we couldn't answer. Setting a place for him at the table was like leaving the porch light on. And things that leave because they want to never come back home for bowls of soup. In fact, they find new tables to sit at and new dishes to ask for and new bowls to eat from. He was now an empty chair at the dinner table and nothing more. Why can't we forget him? I wanted to ask, but I didn't. Tears streamed down her cheeks, off her chin and into the pot. Ma, I said. Then she dropped it. The pot, the soup, the sweet potatoes, shallots, zucchini, squash, and yellow peppers. She dropped the diced tomatoes, creamed corn, red beans, black beans, white beans, and chicken breast into a hot puddle on the floor, burning the soles of our feet. It smelled like home, like memories, like everything I wanted to forget. I didn't cry, but she did, and I let her. Then we both sat at the table. The bottoms of our feet dripped with soup as we picked up our spoons. Mama, I said, this is your best yet. My mouth covered the empty bowl of the spoon and I swallowed. Thank you, she said, and did the same. And then we scooped and scooped and scooped soup from the copper bowls until we were full.
Yay, thank you so much, Ricki. That was just as lovely as the first time I heard it. I'm so glad I got to hear you read it again. So I remember like the first time I heard this story, I was so struck by the character of the mother. And so I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about how you create characters and where you pull that inspiration from.
That's a good question. So one thing that's really big to me when creating characters is I think I like to start from a place of empathy. And I think that's a big part of how I created the mother is I think she's in a very vulnerable position right now because she is going through this hardship, obviously. And in my mind, or not in my mind, the characters, I see a Black mother and daughter. And I think one thing specifically that Black women have been fed is this idea that they have to be very hard, you know what I mean? And this superhero strength. So I wanted to humanize her in a way that we often don't see in like media and literature. And so that was something that I think was this initial seed when creating her, is wanting to find her and create her to be very empathetic and vulnerable. Yeah.
I love that. That's awesome. Thank you. My second question is about your film job. So I know you're working full-time in film now. So I'm wondering kind of how that like intersects with creative writing, like how do those two things kind of cross in your world?
Yeah, that's another good question. So with film and like my love for writing, one thing that I feel like it's kind of intersected is my love for visual storytelling. And so now it's like being able to take these different stories and turning them into scripts to hopefully, you know what I mean, being able to produce them for screen. And I will just say I feel like if anything, film has infiltrated my writing more because it's a lot more cinematic. I think my typical approach when I am writing stories, because I do see it from like a film lens when I'm writing.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Ricki. That was beautiful. I loved hearing it in your voice because I love that piece. I read it a lot, actually. And I like how both you and Anissa have a visual way of storytelling and going at your work. So that's cool. All right. So we have raffle number 2. It is our very first coffee table book. It took a lot of time, my virtual background is not doing this. I promise you it exists. It's a picture right there. Can put it on your coffee table. It's beautiful. There's really beautiful writing and art from all around the world in response to the pandemic and political discontent, I would say, all around the world at this time. So we say it's rear view 2020, but we're in, I don't know, year 25 of the pandemic. So I think it's still relevant. We love it. It's been selling really well as well. So I'm really proud of everyone who put all the work into it. So Kate, I can't do a drum roll, but we are doing a drum roll in spirit. Please pull the number.
Number 4.
Number 4. Who's number 4?
Number 4.
I think that's me.
Fairly.
Fairly.
Woo! Fairly gets it. All right, Fairly. I think send me your address again so I can get this to you. Congratulations. All right, we are moving on.
Hi everyone, my name is Marianne. I'm the nonfiction editor at Press Pause, and also previously had my fiction published there, which is funny because I barely write fiction. So I'm the nonfiction editor. And Kelsey Cleveland is going to be reading for you her piece from Press Pause, and I'm really excited for you to hear it. Like everyone else said, it's been beautiful to hear voices with the words that we've spent so much time with. And a fun story is Kelsey was the very first piece I accepted for Press Pause, and I believe it was her first piece published in a journal. So we'll have questions about that later. Kelsey Cleveland is a writer who, after living in Japan for 8 years, now resides with her husband and teenage son outside Portland, Oregon, where she works as cultural programs manager at Portland Japanese Garden. Her essays have received honorable mention in the Writer's Digest 86th Annual Writing Competition. Several of her tiny truths have won Creative Nonfiction's micro essay contests, and her work has appeared or is forthcoming in Press Pause, Monologuing, Hippocampus Magazine, the Ekphrastic Review, Smith Alumni Quarterly, and the Sankei Shimbun in Japanese. I want to make sure I'm saying that correctly. And she's currently working on Waving Hello, Bowing Goodbye, a dual love story with Japan and a man, a travel memoir about navigating conflicting desires to pursue a childhood dream to live in Japan. But more on that later. Kelsey, take it away.
Hello, everyone. This essay is called The Fan Unfolds, and it was published in volume 5. A skinny pole with 10 discs, which reminded me of beads on a bracelet, stood on top of the 5-tiered wooden pagoda. The bejeweled arm of the pagoda at Toji Temple reached over 180 feet to the sky. It symbolized both the ancient capital of Kyoto and the Japan of my imagination. Sweat trickled down the back of my knees in the heat and humidity as I walked along a path lined with bamboo. Farmers tending bamboo plants wait 3 or more years for signs of growth. After the shoots emerge, giant bamboo timber can grow an astonishing 90 feet in only 2 months. At age 9, after a serendipitous encounter with a Japanese exchange student, I had vowed to learn Japanese and live in Japan one day. My childhood dream of coming to Japan required the faith and focus of a bamboo farmer to make it a reality. Today, here in Kyoto, I discovered proof of my dream at last at age 21. At our next stop, my feet crunched along the gravel path of a magnificent strolling garden. A shrill, relentless screech, which I now recognize as cicadas chirping, grew deafening. I gasped when I first spotted the golden pavilion, Kinkakuji, which appeared to float on a pond surrounded by a forest of tall pine trees. I savored the breathtaking view of a building covered in pure gold leaf reflected in the still waters of the pond. Kirei desu ne, said Yuka, my host sister and tour guide. It's beautiful, isn't it? My eyes glowed, and my limited Japanese vocabulary couldn't express how the temple moved me. I opened my mouth to speak, but choked with emotion. I nodded in agreement. We walked up a steep, winding, stone-paved pedestrian street to our last destination, Sannen-zaka, translates as slope of 3 years. Japanese tourists and international visitors came to this famous street for a slice of old Japan. Narrow wooden homes with tile roofs lined both sides. Some traditional homes became cafes or restaurants. Shopkeepers sold handicrafts, including paper fans, chopsticks, local pottery, trinkets, teas, and sweets from others. We entered a store selling sensu, folding fans. Inside the shop, many of the fans were decorative, made from thick paper and lacquered sticks. Yuka led me to a display of handheld fans you fold up and carry with you in a purse. I selected a small one decorated with cherry blossoms. The slight breeze it generated cooled me more than I expected. The street ended at Kyomizudera, the pure water temple, named for the waterfall that flowed from the mountains to the site. We approached the main pavilion of the Buddhist temple from below to best take in the view. The wooden building clung to the hillside. Kyoto also continued to cling to the old ways and traditions. The mountain air felt cooler when we joined throngs of tourists on the vast veranda overlooking surrounding forest and the city. On our way out, a smaller building caught my attention, so I headed over for a closer look. Yuka joined me at the Hyakutai Jizo Do, 100 Jizo Hall. Inside the open-air building, 200 small stone sculptures were arranged in 7-tiered rows. They wore red bibs and knitted caps in red, orange, or light blue, which made them resemble babies. Their beatific expressions reminded me of statues I'd seen of Buddha. My chest tightened with unexpected sadness. Are they babies? No, Jizo, for lost babies. Lost? Babies who were never born because of abortion, stillbirth, or miscarriage. None of those words were in my Japanese vocabulary, so I asked Yuka to repeat what she said and searched for the words in the dictionary. Then I understood my sadness when looking at the statues. The sweet stone statues gave women a symbol for their grief. I imagined grieving parents securing the bibs under the statues' chins. In Japan, lost babies are counted and commemorated in solid stone. The gaze of the Jizo said we existed, we died, and we mattered. I followed Yuka into the steamy bathroom at the Sento, covering my pelvis with a thin Japanese hand towel made from cotton. When Yuka and I had arrived home from Kyoto, Okasan, my host mother, greeted us with the news that the bathtub in my host family's Nagoya home had broken. If we wanted a bath, we had to visit the Sento, a neighborhood communal bathhouse. Women glanced in my direction before returning to their bathing rituals. Embarrassment and the heat turned my face bright red. The air smelled of soap and shampoo. Naked Japanese women of all ages and sizes were at various stages of getting clean. The women didn't hide their nakedness or seem ashamed of unruly pubic hair, scars of cesarean sections, drooping breasts, or dimpled bottoms. A daughter washed her elderly mother's back. Friends chatted. The young girls there witnessed a timeline of women's bodies as they aged. Yuka and I sat on adjoining plastic stools beneath shower heads. Hold out your arm. Confused, I did as told. She put her arm next to mine and laughed. Look, my skin's paler than yours. You're right. I assumed Caucasian skin was always paler than Asian skin. I joined Yuka on a tour from bathtub to bathtub in the steamy bathing room. First, I sank into a jacuzzi tub, letting the bubbles relax my muscles and melt away my self-consciousness. I dipped a toe in the next tub with scalding water and skipped it. A pine-scented tub with green water reminded me of the smell in the mountains in Kyoto. My thoughts shifted from discomfort at being in a room filled with naked women to relaxation. When I submerged my body in the last bath, a strange tingling sensation like pins and needles coursed through me and made me numb. I scrambled out of the tub, not in pain, but in confusion. The tub sign stated Denkiburo, which translated as electricity bath. My eyes widened in shock. Our cheeks rosy from the bath, Yuka and I walked home holding bags with our toiletries after getting dressed. Did a bath have electricity running through it? I asked. When she replied yes, I tried to keep the judgment out of my voice when I asked, isn't that dangerous? She assured me it wasn't and declared it helped relieve stiff shoulders and back pain. Now, I often think of the folding fans like the one I purchased in Kyoto and how much it was like my experiences living in Japan. At first, the culture and customs were opaque because I couldn't understand the entire picture. Like a fan unfolding, I grasped more fold by fold. Closed, the design on the fan remained hidden, revealing only the background color. A fan started from a single point until the wooden blades spread out, representing life's many paths after birth. First, a few scattered pink petals appeared on a blue background as the fan unfurled, followed by several clusters of blossoms. The knowledge that emerged about Japan often took me by surprise, like the jizo, or a bath charged with electricity. During my exchange, the more I understood about the culture and language made me realize how little I knew. I suspected my life's path would continue to include Japan again, even if I didn't know how the future would unfold.
Thank you so much for sharing. I love this even more now that I've heard you read it. So just to keep time, I'll ask one question, which is that this piece is part of your book, right? So can you just tell a little bit about how this fits into the story?
Sure. So this falls probably in the first quarter of the book. And the scene in Kyoto where at the Kiyomizu temple where about the jizo become a theme later in the book when I'm living in Japan and experience miscarriage myself. And the jizo helped me heal by living in Japan and knowing the background of those. Yeah.
That sounds wonderful. I mean, it sounds like a wonderful story, a difficult experience, but thank you so much.
Thank you.
Where are you at with the book? Sorry,
It's
just curious.
Sure, it's written, and I have a proposal, and I'm seeking agent representation or independent press representation.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here,
First
and
class.
thank you. Yeah, we're all rooting for you, for sure. Thank you. Okay, this is our final raffle. This is all our volumes plus the great pause. You can see they're all different designs. Our designer, Caitlin, is amazing. You can see that volume 4 and 5 have been represented. Oh yeah, Kate's got an array of the first 3, and I've got 5. Let's see. No, there you go. That is actually, that artwork is actually a 18-year-old, I believe from California. So love representing those young artists as well. Okay, so all 5 volumes plus great pause. Who's it going to be?
Right, let's see. I'm doing a little shuffle here. Number 2.
Number 2. Who's number 2?
It's Adam.
Adam!
Adam!
Way to go, Adam. Excellent.
Adam.
All right, Adam, send me your address and we will get all that to you. Congratulations. All right, and last but definitely not least, we have Alise. So excited to hear her poetry and her voice.
Hello, I'm Ray. I'm the poetry editor here at Press Pause, or Triple P, as I like to call it, like diners, drive-ins, and dives. But Triple P. Anyway, it is my absolute privilege to introduce Alise Versella and her work. This was my first year as a Press Pause poetry editor. And it was really special for me to, first of all, to get to introduce anything here and to work here. Second of all, to get to introduce Alise's work specifically. She has 2 poems in the forthcoming issue, which is why there's not a link yet, because you'll have to subscribe to get that one. I think The Dead Are Watching Me and A Woman Holds a Vacancy, and the questions that I ask later on are going to be related to those 2, though I think she'll probably read more than just those 2. But I'm thrilled to get to introduce Alise and her work to y'all. So Alise Versella is a Pushcart nominated contributing writer for Rebel Society, whose work has been published in Circle Show, Cog Magazine, Crack the Spine, Entropy, The Opiate, Penumbra Literary and Art Journal, Poydras Review, Ultraviolet Tribe, What Rough Beast, Steam Ticket, and Elephant Journal, among others. She's been nominated for a Best of the Net and is author of When Wolves Become Birds from Golden Dragonfly Press and Maenads of the 21st Century, which is forthcoming from Dancing Girl Press. You can find more of her work at her website or on Instagram, which I will drop in the chat. But without further ado, Alise Versella.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I just want to make sure everyone can hear me okay. Okay, so I'm going to read A Woman Holds a Vacancy from the forthcoming issue and a poem from my new book, When Wolves Become Birds. This is A Woman Holds a Vacancy. I am not my mother's firstborn. An argument let the bones of that skeleton tumble out of its closet. My mother's wound, a wounded baby bird starving in the nest. She is not the only one to hold her secret in her chest. My mother's past life in the branch split by the lightning strike. Such thin skin on the newborn bird, I notice as it lies crushed in the dirt. My mother's remaining children and her ghosts haunting the room. The unspoken hollows in the family tree, my grandmother's wounded womb, a hysterectomy, a piece of her removed. A woman would carve out her organs until emptied, to feel forgiven the heavy stones of the dead son she buries, no photography to immortalize a memory, a mother's remaining children and the ghosts haunting the room. Mother, every year you swallow the moon and a new crater is carved out of you. I know of the craters formed in women who yearn. My aunt, who wished her womb could do more, was told by the doctors a pregnancy would cause more harm to her already ravished insides. A woman's only child and the ghosts haunting the room. Mother, you are planet and gravitational pull. A daughter is the satellite that orbits you. Do not think her devoid of light if her galaxy never breathes stars. Somehow I decided my belly would never be full, a deflated uterine balloon, a vacancy, but no one could rent the room. I am not incomplete if you tie up the tributaries that run through me. I will have no firstborn. There will be nothing to bury or mourn. I will overflow in other ways. A woman remains, exorcising the ghosts from the room. And this last poem from When Wolves Become Birds is for all the dreams I still have yet to dream and all the dreams once had. I said I want to cast spells, mother. Let the pearls drip forth from the oyster shell of my mouth. I want to taste the cities, mother. Hold the earth like a lover holds my hips above the ledge of his. I won't hold secrets and empty promises. I want blood oath and lightning strikes, terror and the shriek of a nightmare, jolting me alive. Nocturnal birds once the day sets. Watch the girls as they set their masks down, embrace our dark nights and vulnerability, that I still cry and shout so you can hear me. Over the sting in my throat, the sting of this salt, these crusting waves, I swear to God, one day I'm gonna drown in. But for now, I'm learning how to float, how to sip of love and not get drunk. Oh, how the tide wants to pull me back with her, but I am still a stubborn woman, mother. I am learning how to take a fighter's stance. On shifting plates, I try to pirouette and I am graceless. But thank God for that. Thank God for my vulgar mouth and my two small hands. They hold this bleeding organ like an offering to no God at all but my younger self, that Holy Ghost, haunting skeletal halls that creak a little more upon waking now. Kneecaps remember what it was like to run, hunched, howling because it hurt to learn I must become a beast. Some of us never shed the pelt for wings, forget we were made for skies, and we make our own heavens from the pearly gates of our teeth. A smile that bites back, like a dog in the junkyard, a warning behind a chain link fence. We were all born in the gutter with our eyes full of stars. Mother, maybe we did fall to earth from Mars, but I still believe in what we've been building here, even if we burn it down daily. Aren't we all witches set to burn at the stake daily? Joan of Arc, and maybe I am crazy. crazy as my feet levitate from the grass, as I dance and spin righteous divine like a dervish. I spin in the grass and the dew wets my cheeks. I think I'm crying for all the lost souls who once held mad dreams, foaming like the seashore at the mouth of their bays. There is no jetty jagged enough to break my wake. Oh, I am dreaming, mother. Do not attempt to wake me. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Okay, wow, I'm obsessed with your poems. I also, like, because I'm obsessed with them, maybe went like a little overboard on my questions. So if we only get to one of them, that's fine.
We have
but,
time. It's okay, Ray.
Okay, great. I write questions like the PhD student that I am. They're like those big, like, I'll just start. So like your work in both the poem that you the poems that you have coming out with us and in the one you just read has this kind of beautifully balanced tension between things that are, you know, visceral and violent, and then there's this like vulnerability paired with that, and sometimes even like funny things, like you in I think The Dead Are Watching Me, you pray to Whitman, like for a moment, you're like, dear Whitman, bless this compost, which is wonderful. So I was wondering if you would talk a little bit about that dichotomy, what that process is like internally in your writing practice, however that dichotomy comes about for you.
Oof. I feel like it's always such a heavy question, I think. It's always because I feel so at war with myself internally. Most of my poems stem from not being able to make sense of my own feelings. So I guess that dichotomy is like the chaos that's going on inside me and trying to make sense of it, and also to work through it, because some of the subjects are quite painful lately. And it's about, towards the end of the poem, I just want to have overcome something. And I guess, to be cliche, find the light at the end of the tunnel.
No, I love that. I love a cliche. They're cliches for a reason. Like, yeah, that's
True.
beautiful. Thank you. Okay,
you.
well, I will, if I have time, I'm gonna ask the second question. Because you have, in both the poems that you read today and in the ones that are, I know one of them is forthcoming, but in all the poems that I've heard from you now, there's this kind of like leaning into like magic almost, or like this kind of esoteric knowledge that happens. They lean into a kind of knowing that isn't exactly straightforward, right? So in your in the first poem I mentioned, that you didn't read, your speaker has a conversation with a dead doe saying, like, the speaker says, tell me something soothing, and the doe says, empty sockets are still seeing, a third eye type of knowledge. And then in A Woman Holds a Vacancy, you kind of have these striking moments where both the children and the lack of children are these opposing forces that make meaning out of haunting. So I'm kind of wondering about like what logics of knowledge do you find yourself gravitating towards, and how do those work in your poems?
Ooh, I feel like I've always been very witchy, I guess. Dabbled with the Wiccan back in my middle school days. I like the idea of there's something more out there than just us, that magic exists, you know, however you might define that. And I find poems to be like little spells, and just, it's magical what we create on a daily basis. And yeah, I'm always looking to nature for signs. I pull tarot cards for writing prompts sometimes even, but yeah, all the symbolism of life and just different spiritualities really help guide me through my life, and in turn end up in my poems.
Oh, thank you. I love that. I love pulling tarot cards for poem prompts. That's incredible. Also a little witchy myself, so I feel like maybe that's like, you know, witches connecting across the bond of poetry. Well, thank you so much for reading and for answering my convoluted questions.
Thank you so much, Ray.
Thank you, Alise. That was incredible. Everyone was incredible tonight. I'm so glad. I feel like it's really good energy tonight, and I'm really grateful for everyone. I'm actually gonna do one more raffle, if you can believe it. I know, surprise. Surprise raffle. Whoever wins this one gets to choose 2 things from the store. Anything you want. 2 things. Kate?
Game pause. I put all the numbers back in my bucket, so I'm taking out the ones who have already won.
Sorry, Kate.
Fine, that's fine. Okay.
Adam, you can't win again.
I can't find Adam's number, so if I pull them again, Adam, I'm pulling again. So. I found all the others. Okay, here we go. I have 18. I know some people jumped out. Anybody still here with 18? Okay, pulling again.
I think we do. Let's see. Who's got 18? Is Colleen still here?
No.
No. Okay.
So now I have 15. 15 still here? You can't leave early, then you don't get your raffle prize. Okay, we'll go again. Oh, yeah. A couple stuck to my hand. Okay. 14. It's Caitlin.
That's me.
Woohoo! All right. Give us your address, info@presspausepress.org or se.harsha@presspausepress.org. Pick the 2 things you want and we will send them your way. Before we leave, we have maybe time for 1 or 2 questions before I put the writing prompts up. Again, all of our readers have so kindly included a writing prompt. I'm sure all of us writers in the room love to hear readings and then go straight to writing, especially if they're as good as the ones tonight. So anyone have any questions for our readers? Going once?
Well, I have a question where maybe everyone could briefly say how they found us, how they found Press Pause. And I will say that I did cheat a little bit and post in a Facebook group one time as an introduction. But yeah, maybe if we want to just go around in the order that people read and say how you found Press Pause.
I found Press Pause because my best friend Hannah Cahandig Taylor actually was a contributor a couple volumes ago, and she encouraged me to submit, and so that's how I'm here.
Yay, Hannah!
Thanks, Hannah.
I found out because I went to UNCW and knowing Kate, she reached out.
Cool.
I found out on a binder, Facebook binder for memoirists where Marianne posted hey, I'm the new editor at Press Pause. I'm looking for submissions.
Way to go, Marianne. Way to cheat that little time.
Just do once. We got some stuff. And I was like, never again.
Well, the rule is we don't have social media. We don't go and we're not a hall monitor. Yeah.
I found you guys at AWP 2020.
Yeah, that is true.
That
was true. San Antonio, yeah.
What a time.
For Alise.
Oh, I found you guys through a Writer's Relief newsletter that I subscribed to.
Cool. That's awesome. All right, so I've put up the writing prompts. Ray, if you could put that link from the writing prompts in so people can take them away. These are all just generously given by our readers. Take them if you have some time tonight or over the week and do some writing. And if you want to, you can submit to Press Pause. Just go to our website, presspausepress.org. Hey, maybe you'll write something from these prompts and you can submit. The other thing is 10% off in the store. SMOL Fair 2022 is the code. until March 26th at 11:59 p.m. So go there as well. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. I will put the recording up online. Everyone is wonderful, and we will do this again. So watch out in our newsletter. You can sign up for that as well on our website. Again, take those writing prompts, write something and